Dan and Amy. So, Amy, Ed Henry, who's the Fox
Love
News
him.
chief national correspondent, he breaks a lot of stories, but he didn't get this one out of New York yesterday.
What's that?
How did he miss this story?
Yeah, just listen carefully.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Sandra Bookman.
And I'm Joe Torres. We begin with the breaking news about Hillary Clinton's death. Hillary Clinton's doctor has just revealed the presidential candidate has been diagnosed with pneumonia.
Oops. Yeah, Torres, the main anchor at WABC, accidentally reported that she had died. And they didn't correct themselves because nobody heard it in the booth, but now they've come forward and apologized.
I see. Now, Ed,
She's alive, just in case you need to know.
well, she's not alive until Ed Henry confirms she's alive. So Ed Henry, Fox News chief national correspondent, thanks for joining us.
Oh, boy, what a gaffe. That's I hadn't heard that one.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Well, thankfully, she is safe and sound. And by the way, we're told this morning that Hillary Clinton will be going back on the campaign trail on Thursday. And look, she's got a lot of ground to make up because there's a Bloomberg Politics poll out this morning saying near to you, Battleground, Ohio, Donald Trump is now up 5 points. It's pretty close to the margin of error. I don't want to exaggerate it. But remember, she had been up in a lot of these battlegrounds like Ohio, and some of these battlegrounds are now flipping.
And what is she doing on Thursday? Do you know?
My understanding is she's doing a campaign event in North Carolina. That's another one of those critical states. It's one that Romney actually did flip in 2012, one of the few battlegrounds that he flipped from 2008 in terms of something that President Obama had won. But I think, to be fair, that's one of the battlegrounds that Donald Trump has been struggling a bit in, maybe doing better in some recent polls. But I think the fact that Hillary Clinton is going back there, she was just there a few days ago in North Carolina before she got pneumonia, shows that's a state that's very much up for grabs, too.
So she's, has a tendency to keep going no matter what. I'm sure the last 2 days, being on bed rest has probably been difficult. But she needs to make up with the American people about the trust issue because people don't believe that the pneumonia diagnosis was just a convenient way to cover up for something else.
Yeah, you know what? And the fact is we simply don't know what has been going on with her health in large part because, as you say, we heard a couple different stories. I mean, but for the fact that she nearly collapsed on Sunday morning at that 9/11 event, I say nearly because she was falling down on the street. I know her allies are mad at the media for saying she fainted or collapsed. If you watch the video, factually, objectively, she was falling down and falling into that van, but for the Secret Service and others propping her up. But for that, we may have never learned that she had pneumonia. And that shows you the secrecy around the Clinton campaign. And some of that is coming back to haunt them. I feel like if Friday, which normally, we've seen from the Clinton camp, FBI notes and other things have come out, not something they released, but it was convenient for them that things were released on a Friday and then dumped out, for Saturday's news, these classic ways to sort of hide bad stories. They could have leaked out late Friday, early Saturday that she had pneumonia. Of course it would have been breaking news and gotten attention, but it wouldn't have gotten as much as we now are giving it simply because, as you say, she hasn't given a straight story.
And so you're covering Hillary's campaign, and so do you get the sense from Robbie Mook and others that they now get this comrade has a slight cold, Leonid Brezhnev routine is not going to work?
I talked to a very senior Democrat in the last couple of days close to the Clinton campaign who told me that they are getting nervous, and specifically what they're nervous about is not just the health questions, but I think a broader issue for Hillary Clinton that may be tied to the trust issue that Amy was just referring to, which is, of course, is about health, but I want to broaden it out, which is that this senior Democrat told me privately they're just worried there's a lack of enthusiasm among Democrats, not among Republicans or independent voters, but among Democrats, that they need to get out to the polls. And so why was Barack Obama out on the trail yesterday? Well, he's sort of pinch hitting because she's been off the trail, as we mentioned, because of pneumonia and coming back Thursday. But he was in Philadelphia, Barack Obama. A lot of African-American voters, and to my source's point, these Democrats are privately whispering that the polls they're reading internally suggest that she's not going to get that strong turnout from the left, from the Bernie Sanders supporters, the progressives, but also African-Americans, Hispanics. She's beating Trump by a lot, don't get me wrong, among those minority groups. However,
smaller universe,
strong turnout from them, like Barack Obama got. And so far, it's not heading in that direction. That's good for Trump.
Well, it's interesting you raised President Obama and President Obama in Philadelphia specifically. A really interesting piece in the Atlantic out today. Why Democrats in Western Pennsylvania are voting for Trump. And you talked about the poll at the outset where Ohio is, and that kind of extends into Western Pennsylvania. Not that he's up by the same number at present, but that you have, for example, the anecdote that's in this piece by Justin Merriman in The Atlantic about informal voter registration that's being conducted by an energy company in Western Pennsylvania, which is a trade association, for the energy sector in Western Pennsylvania. And they just interview kind of a cross-section of people associated with turning out for the voter registration and who work in the energy sector. And boy, you have a lot of self-identified Democrats who've never voted for Republican who are crossing over and putting, it seems, Pennsylvania in play for real this time, not kind of for fiction like it has been the last couple of times.
And that's a lot of electoral votes, I think about 20 or so, and I think that is a big deal if Donald Trump can flip Pennsylvania. And it's a big if. I don't want to be overly positive on how Trump is doing. He has momentum, and that's what I'm trying to reflect in my reporting. It doesn't mean he's going to win this race, but he has momentum maybe for the first time in this general election race. I think Pennsylvania is critical to that strategy. And look, there's been a lot of noise in this campaign, and Donald Trump had a lot of self-inflicted wounds, taking on the Khan family. I won't replay everything that has gone bad in the Trump campaign. But what could be good, remember where we started in this race, where the Trump allies were saying he's going to bring in new people who haven't voted before, and he's going to flip working-class Democrats. Frankly, the Bernie Sanders voter that might otherwise stay home and not be interested in Hillary Clinton might come to Donald Trump, not just in Pennsylvania, maybe Ohio, throughout the Rust Belt, and Michigan, by the way, which he could, and I underline the word could because it's not definite, could put Michigan in play. And by the way, there's a poll out, I believe, in the Boston Globe this morning, a different part of the country, but it says that Maine is now within 2 or 3 points. Clinton is leading, but do you know a Republican has not won the state of Maine since 1988 when George H.W. Bush, who obviously has a home there, won Maine. So my point is, yes, Donald Trump had a very bad summer. You know, he really struggled, self-inflicted wounds and the like. But he now has the momentum, and look, maybe, and I underline maybe, he's going to flip some of these traditional Democratic states that a lot of people thought a few months ago he might, then recently people have been, poo-pooing that idea. Maybe now he's getting momentum in these states that is going to make the Clinton camp very nervous.
Hey, Ed Henry, what are your sources telling you about Florida? Who's ahead there?
Well, you know, what's interesting is we just had someone on a couple of days ago, and Britt Hume, has taken over our show On the Record and is doing really well. And what he had a reporter from a Tampa newspaper on who was saying that Hillary Clinton had the lead in Florida, and that in critical swing areas like Tampa, she has been saturating the airwaves with ads, spending far more money than Donald Trump. But you would expect that means that Hillary Clinton is winning big in Florida. But this local reporter said, nope, on the ground, it's basically a dead heat. And so what that tells me is, again, over the summer, there was a lot of negativity. Well, Trump's not spending enough money. Hillary Clinton is killing him in the ad wars. Yes, but if people are not buying what she's selling, you can run ads until the cows come home, spend all the money you want, and it might not move the voters. So I think that's the positive side for Trump. To be fair, what I would say is good for Clinton. That might not be good for Trump in a state like Florida. She still has a better ground game. When you look at the numbers, she has dozens of offices open in Florida, and Trump has only recently really started doing that. Now, maybe he can catch up. This is what we're going to see. This is why they play the games. This is why we're all waiting with great anticipation about how the final few weeks will play out. But for all the positive things I'm mentioning about Trump, we should say that in terms of turning out your voters, Hillary Clinton, at least on paper, has a lot more forces on the ground. We'll see if Trump can match that.
Yeah, and the ground game question is always an interesting one. There was a good piece in the Weekly Standard earlier this week about a good ground game does have an impact. But to your point, there's also an old saw in politics that sometimes there's not enough money in the world to sell manure-smelling air freshener. And maybe that's what Hillary's trying to do.
I wouldn't put it that
here.
way, but I'll let you.
Well, that's me. That's me, not you. Let me ask you another question, though. We had a couple of executives from Platte River Networks testify before Jason Chaffetz's committee, House Oversight Committee, yesterday. Two of them took the fifth. The Clinton campaign, you talk about their nervousness with respect to enthusiasm. Is part of that the realization that the email story, no matter what they do, is not going to go away over the next 60 days because every day presents a new opportunity to revisit the issue?
Yes, because it's weighing down our numbers on the question of being honest and trustworthy, no doubt about it. And frankly, here's the other piece. You're right, this hearing was embarrassing on a number of levels. and I'll get to that in a sec. But look, I think the other thing is between now and November, we're anticipating more email dumps, more stuff's coming out
Right.
because they drag some of these court cases and other things on so long that now there's more due to come out. And who knows what's in there? Maybe nothing or maybe something. And look, yesterday you had a longtime aide to former President Bill Clinton testifying under oath that he's the guy who took the hammer out and smashed a couple of Hillary Clinton's BlackBerries. But then he went on to testify again under oath that he wasn't trying to hide anything. He said he was trying to preserve as many records as possible. How do you smash a BlackBerry and preserve records? That's a pretty remarkable feat.
He was trying to preserve the hammer.
Yeah, and James Comey said next time that he does release emails, it will not be on a Friday.
Oh,
Yeah,
interesting.
sure, of a 3-day weekend.
All right, he is Ed Henry, Fox News national correspondent, chief national correspondent. Ed, thanks as always for joining us.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate
And
it.
best to Jerry Reinsdorf in Chicago and getting in the Hall of Fame. He's a good friend of mine.
Oh, very good.
good.
All right, thanks, Ed. Appreciate it. White Sox owner. White Sox.
Gosh. And
owner.
Ed joined us on our turnkey.pro Cub fans answer line.